So this is my fluid mosaic model, or my cell membrane. These are the parts of my cell membrane. The foam balls are the phosphate heads. The lipid tails are the pipe cleaners, yellow pipe cleaners. The cholesterol are the pom-poms that are between the phospholipid bilayer. The channel proteins are the Batman cups. The peripheral proteins are the slinkies, and the glycolipids are the pom-pom balls that are up at the top of the phosphate heads. So why cell transport is necessary is because without it, the cell would not be able to move substances in or out, meaning it would probably die because it couldn't take in like food or like oxygen or something that it needs that's important for the cell, and it couldn't dispose waste. It's kind of like how a human needs to eat or a human needs to dispose of waste. Like, it's the same thing. So that's why it's important. The first transport we're going to look at is diffusion. So here are nonpolar molecules spread out of the cell and in the cell. So this diffusion is when nonpolar molecules diffuse throughout the out and in. So how it happens is when you say diffuse, they spread out until equilibrium is reached, and they go through the membrane. So how equilibrium is reached is when an equal amount on each side and just an equal amount in general in the area is reached. So something like when they're all spread out in an equal area or spread out. So that would be diffusion. And diffusion goes with the gradient, meaning it goes from high to low concentration, which is a passive transport. The next transport we are going to look at is osmosis. Osmosis is going to deal with water and how water is transported through the cell membrane. Water is transported through the cell membrane by just through the cell. It is just transported through the cell membrane, but there has to be a solute. So let's pretend the green is the water molecules. They're green, the green and light green. These are the water molecules. Now on one side, which is going to be in the cell, which is over here, there's going to be less water molecules than this side, and we are also going to have sugar molecules. Now this side is going to have less sugar molecules, and the side that has more water molecules is going to have more solute. This side is going to have less water molecules but more solute. This side's going to have less solute slash sugar molecules but more water molecules. So that means more water is going to want to go on this side and more. So that's how osmosis happens. And osmosis goes with the gradient, meaning it goes from high concentration to low concentration. This means it is a passive transport which requires no energy. The next transport that we're going to look at is facilitated diffusion. Facilitated diffusion has to do with insoluble molecules, and they can't diffuse freely across the membrane because they are hydrophobic. So, what we're going to have to do is they're going to have to go through the channel proteins. And the only way they can do that without using energy is if it's from high to low concentration or with the gradient, meaning it has to be a higher concentration on this side and a lower concentration on that side. So they're going to go through, boom, just like that. And you go through, boom. That's how it works. And that means since it is with the gradient, high concentration, low concentration, that means it is a passive transport, which meaning it does not require energy whatsoever. Which is yeah. So now we are going to move on to sodium potassium pumps. Sodium potassium pumps has to deal with sodium and potassium, obviously. So the green is going to represent the potassium. The blue is going to represent the potassium. Wait, no, green is representing sodium, and blue is representing potassium. There we go. Okay, that's how we will look at this. So there can be, both of them can be on either side. This is just, it doesn't matter how big this is, I'm just using it because there isn't enough small. But for the sodium potassium pump, it is a pump or a channel protein. So it moves potassium into the cell and sodium out. So it kind of opens and closes, except Batman cups can't open and close, believe it or not. I think I said we're gonna make it sodium is blue. No, sodium was green. I'm pretty sure sodium was green. So sodium, these sodium are on the right side. This sodium needs to go out because there's an arrow that makes these want to go out because sodium is supposed to be out of the cell and potassium is supposed to be in the cell. So that is how sodium potassium works. And sodium potassium pump goes against the gradient, meaning it goes from low concentration to high concentration, which means it is an active transport, which does require energy. The next transport we will look at is endocytosis. Endocytosis is sometimes referred to as phagocytosis or pinocytosis because phago and pino both mean food. Phago means food engulfed by cell, or pino means water or liquid engulfed, which are basically the same thing as endocytosis because the cell is consuming. So what will happen in endocytosis is when a large polar molecule, can't pass through the cell membrane without using endocytosis, which will transport using peripheral protein, which are the slinkies here. It would transport basically just like this. Slinkies really aren't the best, but there you go. That's how it would transport. But this is against the gradient, which means it is low concentration to high concentration, which means it is active transport, which means it does require energy. The next transport we will be looking at is exocytosis, which also uses large polar molecules. Exocytosis has to deal with expelling waste from a cell typically from vacuoles, which store stuff in a cell, obviously. Uh, for exocytosis, a transport vesicle is used to transport the large polar molecules. I don't have a vesicle, but the large polar molecules into the outer cell membrane, which then fuses together and spills all the waste out of the cell. And that is how exocytosis means. Exocytosis goes against the gradient, which means it is low to high concentration, which means it is an active transport, which means it does require energy. And that is my video. Thank you very much.